And we are back on the Get Foxy show. Once again, this time we have Erin Wathen. And Erin, you are the author of Why Can't I Stick to My Diet? How to End the Food Drama. And your philosophy is that health isn't a number on the scale or how often we exercise, but our lives as a whole. Now, how did you come to that kind of philosophy?
Through a lot of personal trial and error, and then actually learning a lot about nutrition and our bodies and the connection between mind and body. Because oftentimes, as a woman at least, I thought, oh, if I got to this magic number, then life would all come together. And then I got to the magic number and life was still life. Or I'd gotten to the magic number through starving myself. And then when I began to understand more about like holistic nutrition or a holistic approach to living, that it's great if you are in your BMI weight range, but you also need to not be stressed out, to be eating real food, to be getting enough sleep. That weight is just one of the many metrics in which we can use to see where you're at. But you can be eating organically and perfectly and everything comes from whole foods and everything. But if you hate your job, how healthy are you? Or if you live in this perfect house, but you're miserable because you're really depressed and don't want to get help, or whatever it is. So you can't just say because one metric is great, nothing else matters. It's the whole picture. And oftentimes we're so obsessed with the appearance, whether it be physical appearance or material possessions, that we forget that health is, a lot of it is internal. No one can see it. So that's how I came up with it.
I absolutely love that philosophy. I mean, as a Chinese medicine practitioner, we are very much into that holistic idea. And it really, yeah, I mean, food is important. And it's one of the major things that we look at is, okay, what's your diet like? But at the same time, okay, yeah, how are you sleeping? How's your emotional life? How's your stress level? How are you exercising? All of these things play into one another. So how are you seeing that with the connection to food? I mean, one of the things that I believe you address in your book is how sleep and food are connected. And so how does that work?
Well, whenever I have a client, usually they're women. I typically have 95% women now. They typically have been longtime dieters. Some could want to lose 5 pounds, 10 pounds, some want to lose 50. And I almost always blow their mind when I tell them their priorities are in this order: diet, sleep, stress management, exercise if it works. Yeah. What do you mean? Isn't it diet and exercise? I said, no, it's your food, then sleep. The reason I say sleep being second is because if we don't get enough sleep, we don't calibrate our hormones. So we think we're hungry when we're not. We don't get satiated when we should be. We're more drawn to the wrong foods. And there's a lot of studies that something as simple as people that get more than 7 hours of sleep weigh like 5 pounds less than people that get 6 hours of sleep a night. So there's a lot of connection between weight and appetite and sleep. So the thing about sleep too is, if you think about it, there's less hours in the day you could be eating junk. And oftentimes we go to food for energy. We're just better off going to bed. And another thing about food and sleep is we don't give our bodies enough time to digest food. So we typically eat too close to bed. We have bad sleep. In the morning, we're crabby. We go to coffee and a donut. Blood sugar drops, blah, 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 blah. So if we can get the sleep part down, worry about our stress, if exercise fits in, all of a sudden the scale is moving in the right direction. But if the focus is on how many spin classes you can fit in, well, let's get you sleeping. Then we'll see when the spin classes can be scheduled in versus the other way. I used to get up really early and not get enough sleep so I could exercise. And I weighed 20 pounds more than I do right now. Didn't understand what the problem was. I know the problem is now, but back in the day, it was like, this badge of honor to get up, crack it on to go work out, or even before dawn. But now we know so much more about how the brain needs all that sleep. So the thing about sleep that a lot of us don't understand is you can't make it up on the weekends. You just can't catch up like you used to. And to kind of get in like a sleep schedule or routine. So we don't go to bed at 10 during the week and 2 during the weekend. So we kind of almost always get up at the same time, go to bed at the same time. Not those huge crazy swings like when we're in college. So when we're older, and I know it's not very exciting, you always go to bed about the same time and always get up at the same time, and kind of really get in those habits so your body can really just get in a really nice rhythm.
This is interesting to me because in Chinese medicine, we talk a lot about yin and yang balance. And yang being that motive, active force where you're exercising, you're moving, you're getting up, you're doing, you're going. Yin is that time of rest, relaxation, and peace, sleep. And so when you're overly in that yang state, you can actually deplete the yin and become unbalanced. And vice versa, if you're getting too much sleep, who can get too much sleep nowadays? But, there can be the opposite as well. But in our society, we're always such go, 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 and taking very little time for ourselves for that rest, that sleep, that meditation, that relaxation. And so it sounds like one of the things that you're seeing is that people are turning to food in order to keep themselves going in that active state instead of going and just getting solid rest.
What I've noticed too, I have 2 kids, I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, is the problem is also the devices really close to bed. So for example, if you want to be asleep at 10, you really should go device free at 8:30. My kids hate that I do this to them. Well, there's a lot of studies about like the blue light in our brain, but also if we're really stimulated, sometimes we're like, it's a really good idea to have something to eat. And so we're still eating close to bedtime. Which means our body still has to like process food. So we're not getting as well rested. When what really should be happening is, say you stop eating at 7, 8:30, you turn off devices. That includes an iPad in bed, by the way. 8:30 to 10, you take a bath, you journal, you talk to a partner that you like, ideally, or whatever is in your life that gets you you have a wind down. Because a lot of us just rush, and then try to just boom, go to sleep. Well, how is that going to work? We're going, if you want to think about like driving a car analogy, we're in fifth and we're just going to go to first. Like you can't, your car's going to wheeze and stuff. But we need to have that wind down period of, like I said, taking a bath or a shower or journaling or whatever you like to do. So, so you're sleeping, but you're also kind of like getting, turning off your phone and turning off everything and maybe finding a book you like or whatever it is to kind of give your body those external cues that we're getting ready to really go to sleep. And there's a difference between rest and sleeping is you can also just kind of, maybe you're meditating, maybe you're doing whatever you're doing, but it's time to not be going 100 miles an hour. So all of that does come into like weight and weight loss and weight management, because if we're always going 1,000,000 miles an hour, then we're always needing energy to go 1,000,000 miles an hour. And our bodies aren't meant to do that. We're meant to have downtime. And we're also not meant to be eating as often as we eat. Really, ideally 2 or 3 times a day and not close to bedtime. But often people, they are eating right up, they're even eating in bed sometimes. So if we can just break those habits, like I don't want my kids ever eat in their rooms. They get so angry about this, but I don't care. They'll be fine. There's no food in their rooms, period, in the discussion. So if we can just get away from thinking food is a 24/7 activity, but we live in a world where there's bags of candy sold at Staples. Like, why would you go need a ream of paper and want to buy a 24-ounce bag of Skittles? I have no idea, but they clearly, someone buys them because they keep being sold. So the less times we can see that food is available to us, the better overall we're going to be feeling.
You mentioned journaling. One of the things that I've experienced journaling firsthand in some of the work that I've done for personal development, and it sounds like you've also used food journaling to help you turn around your own emotional eating issues. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, it's a couple ways. First of all, there's journaling in the I ate an apple kind of a way. But for me and my clients, what I have them do it is take it to a very different level. So I always have them, like, right before a meal, how are you feeling physically? How are you feeling emotionally? So for instance, before lunch, you're kind of worried about your presentation and your hunger is okay. Halfway through the meal, you're still liking lunch, needs to be reheated, and you're kind of enjoying your boss's company, but he needs to, stop talking so much about work or whatever it is. To give yourself that kind of check-in period. And then after lunch, say 20 minutes later, oh man, I ate too much. What did I eat? And then emotionally, yeah, that was a very stressful lunch. Like, eating with my boss gives me indigestion. Writing all that down over a period of days, months, weeks, you can see a pattern. Okay, eating with my boss is not a good idea. Or I'm really having a problem with wheat. And then at the end of the day, because oftentimes we forget what we're doing, they all add up, right? So we think, lunch, we have dinner, what does it really matter? Well, there is a pattern, and it all does, over the course of time period, make a lot of sense. If we're, eating when we're upset when we're eating. And as far as emotional eating, at the end of the day, all you can think about is the fact that you had too much bread. Let's get that out tonight. So 3 days from now, we're not still thinking about the bread basket. I've had clients torture themselves a week later over the bread basket. When whatever you had today, let's just leave it today. So journaling often helps with that. So I have the actual food journal of the emotional temperature, that kind of thing, putting down your fork, checking in with yourself. And the thing is, you can check in with yourself in 30 seconds. Like, no one has to know, I'm checking in with myself, everyone. You can just, very discreetly do it. And oftentimes what I've noticed, because I still do this, by the way, the food is kind of cold, or I don't really like it anymore, or this is really good and I'm glad I'm doing it. But until you hit pause, we're just eating like cows or something. It's like automatic pilot. But just making the awareness, because so often we're just, we just not even paying attention.
That is something that I have seen in some of my own patients, is just this unconscious eating where yeah, something comes up, and while I'm trying to deal with this, I'm grabbing something off the shelf and I'm just shoving it in my face, because that's how I deal with things. So yes, having that awareness is so important. Being able to check in and being conscious of, oh my gosh, yeah, this is actually what I'm putting in my face. That can be huge. That's huge stuff.
It is huge stuff. I mean, I had a teenage client over the other day, and snacking is problematic for almost everyone, because first of all, it's just a bad habit, and most often it's entertainment, it's anxiety, it's restlessness. I mean, no one needs Doritos, right? So I was talking to this teenager about, when she snacks, what she's snacking on. And I know I'm not going to get her from one conversation from snacking all the time to not snacking So I was like, okay, if you're going to snack, have a snack. When you're having a snack, I want you to get out the nice silverware, get out a plate. You're only eating. No devices, no phone, no book. You're just eating. She looked at me like I was insane. She's like, well, then what? I said, you're not standing in front of the fridge. You can have one serving of everything, and then you're done until dinner. I don't think she's ever going to bother. I said, you're going to get up, you're going to wash everything, you're going to leave the kitchen cleaner than when you found it, and that's going to be your snack. So eat whatever you want. She was like, not even, I mean, she's not going to go and clean anything up. She's not going to want to do a dish. She's not going to want to sit down without a TV on. What a pain. So over time, I just know it's going to take a couple of weeks. She's not going to want to do all that hassle-y work. She wants to stand in front of the fridge and graze. But getting in those habits of only eating when you're eating, I'm not saying you're in solitary confinement, but not in front of the fridge, not while watching TV, not while on the phone with your mom, like all those sort of bad habits we get into. And all the food, let's face it, is designed to eat that way. One of my favorite things I was told is that Oreos were designed in a lab to be as addictive and as edible as possible. Think about like the shape, think about how it fits in your mouth. The fat sugar ratio is just so creamy and there's the right amount of crunch, not by accident, by design. So there's a lot of the processed foods are by design. So if we just make it not as easy to graze, it's not as likely to happen. But one of my favorite examples, and everyone's done this, at least I know, is the movie theater. We're sitting there like shoving food in our mouth, like a bunch of like just. If you ever really actually gotten up and look at everyone when they're eating, like on the bathroom, people are just like shoving popcorn in their face, this kind of like glazed over eye expression, and they only really stop when their hand hits the bottom of the licorice, the popcorn, the whatever, and you ask them later what they ate, they kind of forget. Because that's what you eat in the movies. That's just part of the movie experience. I'm not saying you never go to a movie again, but at least if you're conscious of what you're doing, or you decide you're going to get a small popcorn and you're going to enjoy it. Okay, how are you going to enjoy it? I'm going to eat ahead of time, whatever, but it's at least you're working towards being aware. But the unconscious eating is where a lot of us can get into trouble. I remember one time I was talking to my mom on the phone. She was annoying me. And I just remember, talking to her like in a cordless phone back when everyone had cordless phones. And I go open the fridge and I used to eat a lot of ice cream, Ben & Jerry's fish food. And I got a spoon and I'm eating it. And then I didn't even realize I'm eating it. And I don't know what she was annoying me about. Next thing I know, I hit the bottom of it. I wasn't even really aware I was eating it. And then my kids come in and of course they're like, oh, it's ice cream time. And I'm like, shh, be quiet, But I don't know. I wouldn't have eaten an apple. So a lot of my, go-to is as far as like, is it emotional eating or is it hunger? Would I have eaten an apple? No, I wouldn't have eaten an apple. I wouldn't have eaten a chicken breast. I needed sugar. I needed fat. I needed the caramel, marshmallow. If you've got fish food, it's kind of got this great thing happening because it was emotional. There was no hunger involved. I was trying to distract myself from my mom. And then at the end of it, if you think about it, what was I obsessed about? How many calories I'd eaten, how much I had to exercise that off, the drama of the food and the sugar, and am I going to get fat from the ice cream? I didn't even give myself the chance to think about what the conversation with my mom was, because this was a problem I was used to handling, was this food thing, not let's really think about what happened with mom. So in a parallel universe, if I hadn't gone to the fridge and I had just dealt with my mom, what would have happened? I would have probably been uncomfortable after the conversation. I would have maybe had to process whatever it was, but the world wouldn't have ended. And that's what I think a lot of us don't realize when we're emotionally eating, is we think we need the Cheetos or the donuts or, the fish food, because we can't handle whatever feeling we're having because it's so intense and so uncomfortable. When if you write it out, you realize you didn't explode, no children were harmed, and it gives you an opportunity to be like, hey, you know, maybe she didn't really mean it that way, or maybe she did and I need to think about it or address it next time. But if you don't give yourself that chance, you're just going to drown in a gallon of ice cream and then be on that, you know, just doing damage control. But if you give yourself the chance to actually feel it and realize you're not going to die from feeling frustrated with your mom, then there's an opportunity there. But you have to give it to yourself.
Amen. This whole self-awareness, this is definitely one of the things that, again, I find there's a similarity between you and I, what we do here, because part of my job is to help my patients tune in to their bodies. And one of the ways that you can distract yourself is by eating instead of actually sitting and feeling those feelings and allowing that emotion to move through. So it's fascinating stuff to me. There's such commonalities between our work. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here, Erin, and ask you the question I ask all my guests, and that is, what does Foxy and being Foxy mean to you?
I think being Foxy means being comfortable in your own skin, knowing that you don't need the approval of other people, you don't need all the likes or the comments or the social media stuff. I mean, it's great if you have it, but ultimately, at the end of the day, you're comfortable with your own decisions and your own path, because oftentimes people are just looking for the thumbs up from others.
And has there ever been a time in your life where you haven't felt so foxy, and what did you do to reclaim it?
Yeah, there's been a lot of times actually. I would say, you know, when in my book I talk about how I had an eating disorder for, you know, most part of my life, and because I was all about my appearance, which is really about how I thought other people were looking at me or seeing me or judging me. So what I ended up doing to reclaim it was, and I talk about this also in my book, is for so many years I was convinced exercise was the key. So that's how I ended up being a Pilates instructor, a spin instructor, a yoga, and all these instructing. And it wasn't until I realized that it was all about the food, and I became, you know, a health coach and a food addiction counselor and all these other sort of weight loss expert, that I realized, you know, exercise is wonderful, but food is actually what is important as far as how you look and how you feel. And when I realized I didn't care if I lost any weight, I just couldn't live on this roller coaster anymore, because it really didn't matter, you know, what the number was on the scale, because I just couldn't, you know, I was always like sugar high, sugar low, and had like little stacks of, you know, candy everywhere, and, you know, it's hiding from whatever, that I couldn't handle that chaos anymore. So once I became comfortable with whatever my body did, my body was going to do, but I needed mentally to have that clarity, that's when I really reclaimed the lack of needing the, you know, the proverbial likes or whatever. And the fascinating thing is, now people are dying to know what I'm eating. They're dying to know what I'm up to, because I look better in a bathing suit at 43 than I did at 23. And all I keep saying is, just read what I did in my book. That's what I do every day. Like, I'm not dieting. I don't have any tricks. There's no magic stuff I'm trying to sell you from my house. I'm just eating the food plan I talk about. That's it. No magic. But I've stopped going to food other than when I'm hungry and other when I need to eat. I have a bad day, I'm not going to food. I'm bored, I'm not going to food. So there were so many times when food was used inappropriately or just misused in my life. And that's when I was able to reclaim it. So.
And who embodies Foxy in your world right now?
You think of like a celebrity or a friend or that kind of thing?
Celebrities, friends, whoever comes to mind.
Think of someone that's really comfortable in their own skin. My grandmother was, you know, Foxy for someone that's born in the Great Depression. I think she was a good example because she was someone that was very much about what was important to her and what really mattered, and set a very good tone for me as far as like how to navigate this world. And don't get me wrong, like still gotta be polite, still gotta be nice, but ultimately at the end of the day, you're gonna do what you're gonna do. And I think that's a really good example because I have a daughter as well, that we need to get stuff done. But there's also a way to do things that does, maybe a bull in a china shop. However, let's be reasonable here, people. And I do like the idea of being able to talk things out with others and explain things that aren't that complicated, people think are complicated, because people are, in their minds are blown constantly by nutrition. They don't know keto and paleo and what is it now, and I'm always like, you realize people complicate it for a reason. They make it complicated to make money. It's not that complicated. Eat a bunch of fruit, eat a bunch of green leafy vegetables, drink a bunch of water, eat quality meat. Don't eat when you're not hungry. The fat you eat should not be from anything other than like natural sources. Don't eat all day. Everything else is details. It's sort of like basics, like a little black dress never goes out of style kind of thing, right? But all this noise, that's what people are complicating it, because that's where they sell cookbooks. That's where they sell those powders. There's a lot of money in that stuff. I'm not saying people shouldn't make money, but to take something really complicated and simplify it is actually one of the hardest things you can ever do. But once you do that and people are able to understand, it doesn't need to be super, super complicated. Because if you're going to stick to it for the rest of your life, it needs to be kind of simple. And with a lot of nutrition and weight loss, for women especially, because most of us have been on some sort of a diet since we were teenagers, it just seems too, there's no way it can be this simple. I mean, please. There's got to be this thing that no one told me about in this magic room somewhere. I mean, why wouldn't I have done this earlier, right? But when you can get really have someone understand that it doesn't need to be this hard, you just need to kind of go with it.
I'm going to be including a link to your book on the show notes page, Erin. But if our listeners want more information from you or would like to work with you, how can they get a hold of you?
My website is erinwathenwellness.com.
Plain, short, sweet, simple. Erin, our time, if you can believe it's already up. I've had so much fun chatting with you today. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I just have to honor you and thank you for doing what you're doing in this world, because you are helping change lives for the better. So thank you so much.
Thank you.